Hello everybody, going to try a master game live analysis. And in this I am going to step through a game that I have no idea about any of the moves. I don't know the results, I don't know any of that stuff. But what I do know is that I can try my hand at talking about the position as it occurs and seeing how each move works and try to guess the moves, those kinds of things. So we're going to start off just by going through the opening fairly quickly. Just guessing a book move isn't going to be uh, too interesting, but I'll be out of my opening book really quickly. So I see that White's played e4, Black is playing the Sicilian defense, and I don't know the name of this variation. I've seen it a lot before. I'm going to look it up after this game and post it in the comments probably. That'll help me remember it or learn the name of it. It is helpful to know the names. So I'm going to learn the name of this variation of the Sicilian after the video, and hopefully that'll help me. This C3, I see the C3 happens a lot as the second move of the Sicilian, and I do know the name of that variation. It's called the Alapin variation, and I'll tell you a little bit about it, and I will guess that probably this opening is going to transpose to a variation of the Alapin Sicilian. So what's happening here is that White wants to support a push to d4 with c3. Now that's the positive. Now what normally happens, Black is counterattack, or not counterattacking, but setting up a. I've got a game going on in the background. Just ignore the sound effects. An observed game. Anyway, what's happening is Black is setting up to be able to prevent or discourage d4 with their c5 move on move 1, and White is setting up to support that push anyway. It's trading a wing pawn, which is the ABC pawns. A, B, and C pawns are wing pawns. F, G, and H pawns are wing pawns. A and H are obviously outside pawns. Then the D and E pawns are the center pawns. So Black would like to trade a wing pawn for a center pawn here, and White sets up to re-exchange his wing pawn for the newly gained center pawn that Black would gain. So that's a long-winded explanation for what a lot of you probably already know, but that's the idea behind c3. The downside is that it blocks natural development of the b1 knight, and also kind of hems in this bishop just a little bit. Obviously you play d4, the bishop can come here, but it's not so easy to redirect to this side. Okay, moving on to the next move. Knight f6, and then I'm going to guess, since c3 was played, that d4 is going to be the next move. Will I actually? Wait, let's stop there. I say that because that's the normal thing for move 2 after move 2 c3, but here this pawn is under attack and is not being defended. So what's happening here is Black is actually making it a little bit more difficult for White to proceed. How does White defend this pawn? Look at the various ways. Bishop d3 blocks in the d4 advance, so that can't happen. Knight c3 can't happen because of this pawn. So knight f6 makes a lot of sense because it cramps Black's development by attacking a pawn that it makes it very difficult to defend. So what can White do? One thing White can do is go halfway to d4 by playing d3, which stops Black from taking the pawn, and leaves open the option of d4 in the next move or two. Obviously that costs White one move to do. Normally it only takes one to get to d4, but going d3 first causes a waste of time. So my guess is d3. I think I've actually seen this before. I'm not 100% certain, but I think I have. So my guess is just d3 here. Okay, so White takes the other option, which is to block in d4 and protect that. What can happen now is that White can retreat to c2 and then proceed with that plan. I figure that that's probably the best thing. It probably also wastes one move that, well, I don't know if it wastes it. I think if White is going to come to c2, it's going to take two moves anyway. So this is probably a better plan in that regard. Okay, Black develops normally c6, looking to control a couple of dark squares in the center. White castles. This all looks fairly straightforward now. Here we have Black pinning the knight on this diagonal, and what's happened here is it's hard to break that pin easily since White has already committed the bishop to this diagonal to defend the e4 pawn. So this move makes some sense in that regard. moving the queen away to break the pin will cause a little bit of a recapture weakness here. In other words, if white takes on f3, then g takes f3, gives white some double pawns, and a slightly opened up king side here along the g file. In those situations, it's a trade-off. White does get the option to play king h1 and rook g1 so that he can take the open file much more easily than black can. So there's a plus and a minus to that, but it's something to keep in mind. So white does continue with the plan that I mentioned earlier, which is bishop c2, protecting that pawn, getting it out of the way, preparing c4 a little bit more. Now notice that c4 isn't protected, d4. Notice that d4 isn't protected anymore by the knight on f3 because it's pinned. So black proceeds by attacking the pinned piece, and that's a pretty common tactical theme. Lots of good things can happen when you attack a pinned piece. Not necessarily always, but it's a common tactical theme. So white's going to have to be careful here. Looking ahead, is there a way to put any more pressure on f3? Initially, I'm going to say that there's not an easy way to do it. The queen can't get into play easily. This knight can't get there. So it looks like that's all the pressure that black can put on it quickly, at least with obvious moves. Now there may be something a little bit deeper that I'm not looking at. But at this point we have knight defended twice, pawn and queen, and attacked twice. So everything's okay for now. It's just a little bit difficult for black. I'm sorry, for white. Black's opening up pretty active and aggressively here. Okay, so this comes with tempo, which allows white to abandon the defense of the e4 pawn. Black doesn't have time to take it because he's in check. And there's not a real comfortable way to get out of that check. Moving the knight back kind of wastes a little bit of time from what he was doing earlier. It abandons his active plan here. It looks like probably a little bit better would be to shift around the f6 knight. My initial inclination would be to play bishop f to d7 to block this check. Could also bring the bishop back, but one of black's active pieces out here is going to have to come back to block this check. Black has 3 active pieces, and white has removed his job of defense, but black has to respond to this diagonal check here by removing one of his active pieces back towards defense. This is a pretty, looks like a pretty good move in that regard. Okay, so I did guess that move correctly, which was knight f to d7 to block. And now white, let's reassess where we're at. We have no defenders for this, but it's also not attacked, so that's just kind of a trade-off. We just sort of traded roles here. Attacker, this was the defender, and now it's the attacker. This was the attacker, and now it's the defender. We've traded roles. Nothing really changed other than that, other than white has taken just a little bit more of an aggressive stance. So what about this hole here on d3? That would make me nervous. I don't think that there's anything immediate, but how annoying does it look to see something like knight d3 plus a c4 push? That looks pretty rough to me. So white is going to need to address 2 things here. One, this pin is still a little uncomfortable. It might be good to address that. White would also want to address this hole on d3. One way you could do that is to go ahead and push d4, which we've been talking about for the last few moves. So let's analyze real quick. d4, knight takes f3, check. G takes f3, and then bishop e6 or h5. Or h3, huh? So move the bishop afterwards. Obviously can't take with the queen, or you just lose the queen for a minor piece. So that would be one way that black could respond to d4. Going back and looking at another way that black could respond to d4 is c takes and c takes. And we're kind of right back with that same, probably knight takes f3. So that's what I think, it looks like what's going to happen here is d4 and then open up the g file and move the king to h1. I would assume that's going to be the plan that's going to happen over the next few moves unless white comes up with something better here. Now that is something that I did not consider. All right, knight takes e5. This is interesting. Knight takes e5, bishop takes queen. Bishop takes d7 check. Queen takes d7. Knight takes d7. King would it be better to do king takes right there? Or would it be better to do something like bishop d4? I think it's going to be trapped. So, wow. What I want to do is open up trial mode here, which means that this we can do whatever we want on the board. This is not part of the actual game. I'm just going to move the pieces around a little bit. But let's go bishop takes d1. Bishop takes d7. Queen takes. Knight takes. Now here, taking stock of the situation, if black takes here, white takes here, what do we have? We have white up a piece, don't we? Well, let's look at that. White's up a piece here. Okay, so let's go back. Here, whose move? It's black's move. What about this? Does this save black at all? Because the knight, I think, was trapped. This is what I was referring to earlier. No, no. Oh. Huh. Yeah. It looks to me like this is a win of material for white. If black takes the queen. Very interesting. I wouldn't have seen that tactic. That's kind of neat. So, what is black's best move here? Let's say we're black. Would it be something like bishop e6? Keeping a defender on d7? Would it be just simply taking the knight? That's got to be what it is. It's taking the... Whoops, nope, cancel. Would it be let's try it, actually. I like that mode. Would it be simply this, and now white needs to respond to this by... That's also going to lose a piece, isn't it? Yeah, to me it looks like white... This is winning for white. Let's go ahead and move forward. Wait, am I still in trial mode? I don't know whether I'm still in trial mode or not. Let's go ahead and move forward. Bishop takes d1. Hopefully I was right about this and I'm not just doing the trial mode that I just did. So this all looks... there's the move that actually happened in the game. So let's go back now that I know what was happening. Let's look at it a little bit more slowly. Knight takes e5. Bishop takes d1. Bishop takes. Queen takes. Knight takes. And here we save the bishop, but white can't save the knight. Is that accurate? No, white is going to trade off for the bishop. So almost definitely it'll be white take, the knight takes on f8 here. I just don't see any other way to save the piece. So in all of this, white is still going to end up a piece. No, because is the knight still trapped? Well, you're still, even if you lose it, you're still up a piece instead of two pieces. So I'm going to predict black resigns soon. The only downside here is that white's not developed at all, but it's just one black piece out there marauding around. It's not going to be much of a threat. I don't think black can get developed fast enough to cause any real havoc. So I'm going to predict that black is going to resign soon. Here's white just trying to get the pieces out. Simply developing and protecting the pawn, and the end of the game. So here black resigned. I don't see that on the thing down here. Oh yeah, I do. 1-0 white wins. So I'll scroll down here. I just avoided looking at this window during the video. It's been down there the whole time. I sure wish I could resize and not just move. It's been down there the whole time. I was just trying not to look at it. I can't get rid of it that I can find. I'm going to try to find a way to do that, or tape something over that or something like that while I'm doing it. Not tape, but put a little note card over it or something so I'm not tempted to look. But I wasn't tempted to look that whole time. This game was in my master game database. I just picked load random game. Claude Filion, I don't know how to pronounce that. These names look French, versus Jean or Jan, I don't know how to say these names. Deschenais. So these are a couple of French guys. Game was played in 1990, and White won due to a pretty neat little tactic that I definitely enjoyed seeing. Would have been really cool if I'd have caught it on the first look, but it's probably puzzle worthy. Might look. In fact, let me look at it with an engine here and see if it. I'm going to load up Houdini and see what it thinks about this position. It says knight takes e5. So knight takes e5, bishop takes d1, bishop takes d7 check, queen takes d7, knight d7, bishop c2, knight takes f8. So this looks exactly like what actually happened in the game. Pretty neat little tactic. Okay, so that was my first attempt at analyzing a master game live on video. I hope it wasn't too painful to watch. I definitely enjoyed it, and I'll definitely be doing it again. So leave any comments or suggestions on YouTube, and I'll definitely read them. And hopefully this will be fun. Thanks for watching.